everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, Conversations and Connections. I'm your host, Sandy McGregor, and again, is a delight to be here. I love bringing new people onto the podcast to share their incredible stories of faith, what God is doing, what they're up to, so you can learn more about the goodness of God in this beautiful world that God has given us. And today we have Paige Gallant with us, and I'm so excited to share because today is all about homeschooling. And as most of you know, I'm a fellow homeschooler, and I was homeschooling for 17 years, and now I have transitioned into a different stage of life where my youngest is now not at home and everybody else is kind of growing up at university or graduated. And so I'm at a different stage, but Paige is right in the thick of homeschooling, and she is here today to share about the gift of homeschooling in her world and what it's like. So stay tuned because I think we're going to be learning a lot of great information today. So welcome to the podcast, Paige.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a delight for sure. Well, let's have the listeners get to know you a little bit better. So why don't we share, why don't you just share a little bit about you, who you are, and what you're doing?
I'm Paige Gallant, and I'm living on the East Coast with my family of Canada, and we've been homeschooling the past 9 years now, which is kind of crazy to
Wow.
me.
Yeah.
Um, I have a child in grade 9 and grade 6 and elementary school, grade 3. So they're all in very different phases of their life, which is keeps it really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and my husband's a lineman. Um, we've been home. We didn't initially think we would be homeschooling, but here we are, which
Here
is
we
really,
are.
I'm thankful for God's providence in that. And yeah, so I started sharing my life online, and it kind of grew into something bigger, and God opened up doors for it in that space. So that has been a really big blessing too. Over on my Instagram, which is on the Go of Homeschool,
Mm-hmm.
getting to work with authors like you and different companies. So it's been a really big blessing for our family. So that I have a background. I had my own government licensed daycare starting out. My kids were really, really little.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I have a background in journalism. So, yeah.
Nice. That's amazing. Well, I found you. I was actually trying to think of how I found you, but the algorithm is it leads you toward where you might be looking at the most, right? And so I found you and I just fell in love with what you were doing. Your Instagram account is really beautiful and it's just a delight to follow and to hear about what you're doing and to watch you in the process. So definitely I will link it below so people can follow you on the Cove Homeschool because it is such a great learning tool. And we'll get into more of the social media aspect a little bit later, but there are so many good things we can do with social media. There really are. And I feel like there's a really bad rap because it can be, but I really love what you're doing. It's a really special gift that you have.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit into your earlier life because I love to start back as far as you really want to go, kind of into your earlier years of how that shaped your faith journey. And then we'll start kind of talking a little bit more toward like meeting your husband and then having kids and getting into the actual homeschooling world. So let's go back to the beginning in a little bit.
Yeah. For me, as a kid, I didn't grow up in a Christian home, but my grandmother was. And so whenever I was over at her house, she always presented the gospel to me, and she would always read to me. We always studied God's word every time we were over, and I was always looking forward to it. I was so excited to see, like, what story are we going to learn about now? And
That.
so she's a huge, huge influence in my life. Those grandmothers, they're so important.
Mhm. Yes, they
Um,
are.
and planting seeds. And I'm just really thankful because she helped me, just understand the gospel and Jesus. And I would say I ended up getting baptized when I was 16. And yeah, I can just see God's hand throughout all of it, protecting me in my teen years. And yeah, I'm just so thankful. So that's kind of like where it kind of all started was my
Yeah.
grandmother.
Yeah, that's really special. I agree. Grandparents are so precious. I see
Yeah.
that with my kids and how much they love their grandparents. And we still have both of our grandparents around, which is such a gift
Well,
because they are in
yeah.
their, early to mid 80s. So it's a treasure. And actually, my mom and dad don't know this yet, but I'm coming over there on Wednesday to start. There's this thing my sister-in-law sent me. and it was recording the history. So there's like a video component to it and then a written component. So I don't know what it's called yet, but she sent it to me. So I think having the legacy of your grandparents remembered, because what you have with your
Yeah.
grandmother is so beautiful to
Yeah.
share with your kids. And what a gift that is to have somebody speaking life into you at such a young age.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's so important. That's really cool. That's something that's been a desire for me too, is like just looking back and seeing grandparents and even like great aunts and uncles and stuff.
Mhm.
It's becoming really important because you're right. I don't want that lost. And I
Yes.
want them to be able to remember that too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that was part of the stepping stone for me writing my first devotional was honoring my grandmothers and my mom and kind of
Mm,
what they had spoken into me. And then what God was laying on my heart was what I can speak into my own girls or into other people, because that's what we're called to do anyway in Titus 2 is to teach the younger women. And that includes, the women that are in your home too, right?
mhm. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good responsibility, but it's a responsibility, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So then tell me, when did you meet your husband, and what influenced you to stay on the East Coast? Like, did you guys start somewhere else, or have you always been an East Coaster?
Well, we were born and raised, both of us, here on the East Coast.
Hmm.
It's funny. I feel like this isn't too small of a town, but we both met when we were 4 years old in preschool at a little
What?
local church. So we like
So
have the
great.
same, we have the same memories of the same streets. We were four at a local preschool at a little local church there in our neighborhood.
Mm,
And it's funny, he was homeschooled until grade 5. And I was public schooled and went off to the little elementary school that was
mhm,
there. He started there. We re-met, I guess, when he was in grade 5. He was the new kid in our school.
mhm,
And ever since, our lives kind of interweaved in and out. We would go to different schools, but then we would go back to the same
mhm,
school. And
mhm,
then he moved away to England, actually, for a year, and I moved away to Ontario.
mhm.
Uh, and then we found each other again when we were 20, and the rest is history.
That's amazing. Okay, that's not very often you hear somebody that they've known each other that long. Like, that's a long time, Paige.
That's a long time.
That's really special, though. I love that. It's so neat how you have the same memories, that you don't even have to explain it to them, right? You're like, you get
Right.
it.
Yes, I know, it's weird. Like, yeah, we biked the same streets. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
pretty special.
It's like a movie. Yeah, I love that. That's so cute. That's awesome. So then after you guys met, was homeschooling, because you just mentioned now that he was homeschooled till grade 5. So did he come into the marriage thinking, "Oh yeah, this is totally what you're doing," and you were thinking the opposite? So how did you get on the same page? Because often with a husband and wife, somebody wants to do it before the other. And it becomes kind of like I don't know, I'm not really sure. And then there's stories I've heard that they always knew they wanted to homeschool.
Yeah.
So what was your story?
Well, I that's the funny thing because he was homeschooled.
Mhm.
His brothers are homeschooled. So like that's the really interesting thing that it was never on our radar. So
Interesting.
um we moved to this adorable little house, our first home, in the same neighborhood that I went off to elementary school, and he was in
Mhm.
grade 5 and then
Mhm.
is there. And so it was just like a dream to send off our kids. Like, we can walk there, we can
Yeah.
walk them, back and forth to their school, and I'll be
Mhm.
home and I'll be there with them.
Yeah.
um so yeah, it was never on our radar. So we did send our oldest off to kindergarten. Um, she had, uh, um, she had a lot of medical issues, our oldest daughter.
Mhm.
So the school was really gracious. We actually
Mm.
had the teacher was a Christian, which we are so thankful for in a public school. So
Mhm.
she would pray, and she
Mm.
ended up in February having to get emergency surgery.
Mhm.
And there was something in me that was like, I just wish like I was there.
Mm.
Um, and so that trickle effect of all of that.
Mm.
And I was home, like I was running my own government licensed daycare
Right.
with my other baby at the time.
Right.
And so I felt really like I felt just conflicted, like raising these other children and sending my child off to go get raised and educated by someone else when I knew that I was capable
Right.
of doing it myself.
Mm,
So I'm thankful I had a friend. She had 5 kids, and she was many years into homeschooling, and we were having a like just a girls' night at my house and
mm,
kind of sharing these thoughts. And
yeah.
all she had to say was, "Why don't you homeschool?" And I was like, "Why did I never think about that before?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was that night I talked to my husband, and it's funny because he was homeschooled, but
Mhm.
I had to like convince him.
Yes. Yes.
Well, not to convince him, but just like, we'll take it a year at a time. And
Yeah.
that was how we kind of um, came to the decision, just
Yeah.
1 year at a time.
Mhm, mhm.
And yeah, so it was just a blessing. We haven't looked back since, and we're really thankful that we did that.
That's
So
amazing. Oh, I love to hear that. And the word conflict is really interesting because I do remember that feeling of conflict in me as well. Similar story when I did send my kids initially to like some preschool, JKSK, and then my oldest finished grade 1. And I knew there was, it's a long, long story in some ways, but short story, I just knew there was conflict. And there was this one time my son had to do a presentation and he worked so hard on it. And normally they're really good about letting you come in and maybe just sit at the back or whatever. And I remember they said, "No, I'm really sorry. You can't come in." And I remember standing at the door thinking, you know, I'm not sure I like this feeling. What's going on with me?
mhm.
I want to be there. I want to be engaged, but yet I love the fact that they're going to the school.
Yeah,
Because I'm like, Lord, what is going on? And same thing with you. I actually had a sister who had multiple kids as well. And so it's interesting how you have influences in your life, right? Because that was what I was going to ask you next. Like the influence of other people around you in a positive way, encouraging you and like actually pushing you, which sounds like what your friend did. It's just like, why not? You're like, I
yeah,
don't know. I didn't think about that before.
I
But
know.
it takes somebody else sometimes that God uses in your life to push you in a direction that God already knew was coming, but he waits patiently for us, right? Until
Yeah,
we really trust him, right?
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. And there's like so much learning that happened in that
Mm,
in sending her off to
mhm.
school. And we loved the school, we loved her class, we loved her teacher so much. It had nothing to do with any
Yeah.
of that. It's
Yeah.
just like, I want her home.
Yeah. No, I agree. The biggest thing for my boys was, what about recess?
I know. She misses, like, yeah, she misses recess for sure.
Yeah, but you know what? That's where, and we can get more into this too, but the creativity now as a homeschooling mom pushes you to the limit. And for a lot of moms that maybe just feel like, I just don't know if I can get out there, you really have to learn to move beyond your walls and
Mhm.
get out there to find unique things, to get them engaged in community and different things like that. Because otherwise, it does feel isolating. I mean, I'm sure you understand that it can
Yeah,
be,
I
right?
can.
It
Yeah.
can feel
Yeah.
lonely and isolating, right?
Hmm.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that there's ways that we can get out there and be,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. So maybe you can talk a little bit about when you did start transitioning into homeschooling with your kids, what did you learn about curriculum choices and how did you kind of go about that? Because there's probably a lot of people listening today thinking, wow, this sounds like me. I'm conflicted, but there's no way I could do it because I don't have any background in education, which most people don't. Most people don't. How do you go
Right.
about it? So, what were your first steps into like, okay, now what?
Yeah, it was like total research mode. It was so for me, at this point, Instagram, like I didn't know what it was at this point.
Mhm.
I didn't get more involved until 2019, but so YouTube was huge for me. Well, of
Mhm.
course, like talking to my other friends
Yes,
who
for sure. For sure.
what they're using. I went to their houses and flipped through all of their stuff. And like asking them questions, of course, and then YouTube. So just like sitting down and seeing like what's out there in blogs. I
Mhm.
read tons of blogs, seeing what other people liked and
Mhm.
used, and yeah, I loved that part, and I still parts of me still love like just
Mhm.
researching new curriculum and what's out there, and
Yeah.
so that was fun for me and exciting.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
that's good.
but I think I put a little bit of pressure on myself the first year, but I learned pretty quickly
Mhm.
to just like back off a bit. It was grade one and I had the preschool kids,
True.
and
Yes.
it's just a lot of it should just be fun and reading together. And
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of like, how did you incorporate, so at that stage, maybe, what was your perspective on adding like a biblical worldview? How did you incorporate that into your day?
oh, that's really good. Um, so like we would always have devotions. I would choose like a little devotional book that we would do, scripture memory.
Mhm.
We would do scripture memory,
Mhm.
and um, yeah. So that's kind of how we started. I'm trying to think when we had our science curriculum. When I finally got into it, like a few years in, when we started doing more science, just like, well, I'll say this, when I had my daycare too, we would always go on like nature walks every single day. We got out of the house and we would always do like, what can we taste? What can like we smell? What can we see? So the kids are like, oh, I smell smoke from like a
Yeah.
chimney. Or so just like pointing, I think it's really important to point out um like the creator of all those things,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
like with nature and like the caterpillars, and just like how incredible of a creator we have
Mhm.
who creates these tiny intricate details of
Mhm.
like, the smallest
Absolutely.
little flower. So even just pointing out like the creators, so something
Mhm.
for um with my daughter that she still does. She's in grade 9 now, and
Mhm.
she is like, oh, this, like, she loves sunsets, and she's like, God, God put that sunset there for me today. And so just for her to like, feel, know she's loved,
Yeah. Yeah.
seeing something in nature by
Yeah.
God is just really precious, and I'm glad she like does that to this day. So that's been something I'm hoping that we have continued and built, and they can continue to see that throughout their life.
Absolutely. Well, I think you already started that just with her saying that it becomes a personal connection. And I
Right.
think it helps understand the personal connection with with our creator, with God, and how he created this world with us in mind. And he loves us enough to give us these good gifts. And I too loved getting out and taking them outside as much as possible, even when it was cold, and the maple syrup trips and whatever I could do to keep my kids busy and active and connecting with other people. That was really important because they always wanted to get out and quickly see their friends and do something. So I'm like, no, no, no. First, let's do our morning. Let's get the hardcore math, the reading, language arts, the science, or whatever. Try to get these things done. And then I tried to keep our afternoons, which I'm sure you can talk a little bit about too, but whether it was an art program or a swimming program or a nature program or something like that. So, so talk a little bit about, because I know this is important for people listening, like how do you connect with people beyond your four walls, which is super important to do. But then there's this other part of homeschool co-ops or connecting with other families. So how have you incorporated that into your homeschooling day?
So that's a really good question. So when we first started doing like homeschool, it was so important to me to make sure I was getting out, so they can meet other kids. And so, of course, it was like an encouragement to me too, so that
Hmm.
I could. It was a time for the moms to just ask questions and have a support system. So having
Hmm.
that support system was huge. So when they were young, we had a really amazing co-op in the city that we lived in before now.
Hmm.
Um, and it was wonderful. So we met once a week at a church, and they would do gym class. The moms had picked out previously in advance different things that we would study. So there was architecture, science,
Hmm.
um, yeah, so it was, and then one parent, we would rotate parents who would plan the lessons. So that was really lovely. And it was a really huge encouragement to me.
Hmm.
My kids loved it.
Hmm.
So, but as they got older, things changed. So there was a part where my daughter, I think she was grade 7, maybe. No, this was maybe grade 6. So
Hmm.
my oldest daughter was in grade 6, and we kind of backed out of everything.
Hmm.
So I just needed time to figure out what season we were in. As she was getting older, our homeschooling was changing. And
Hmm.
so I needed to figure that out and have time to figure that out and kind
Absolutely.
of really nail down our rhythm within our own house
Mhm.
before we were rushing off every Friday. Um, so yeah, I'm not 100% like still why we did that choice, but I'm thankful for that time too, that season. And then it was
Mhm.
just the last 2 years where we started doing co-ops again.
Yeah.
So I felt like when we, even though we were taking a few years away from co-ops, we still met up with friends and
Yeah.
we still did play dates and group
Mhm.
dates, and they're really involved with church. So we were always with our church groups and stuff too.
Right.
So they were not like
Mhm.
just home with me,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. No,
we had our,
understand.
yeah, we had our extracurriculars and everything like that. But
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
just been recently that we have gotten back into co-ops, and it's been really lovely
That's
again.
amazing. No, it's good. But I love what you touched on with the whole concept of rhythm, because I think with the rhythm, there's a reset. And I think every homeschool mom goes through this where you are all in, you're busy with the co-ops, and then all of a sudden one day you're not like you're feeling like you're crashing, but something's starting to implode a little bit. And I
Mhm.
completely relate with that because I was involved and ran a homeschool co-op, and it came to a point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And
Right.
I could tell my kids were like, they didn't want to say it, but I knew what they were thinking. It was time to back off a little bit. And
Mhm.
then, of course, things changed as my kids got older. They went into Christian school, and then there was only three at home, and then there was only two at home, and then there's only one at home. So that there's always a rhythm that's changing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that people understand that that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and like even for now that you're saying you're not really sure, but at the same time, God was filling that time with
Mhm.
what He needed to pour into you so you could pour into your own family.
That's true.
Because being super busy doesn't mean it's super great.
Right.
I mean, there's like this balance. So maybe we can even talk a little bit about now the balance with this new kind of a rhythm and reset in your mind, but how
Yeah.
that now unfolds into your daily routine. So what does a daily routine look like for you? Like maybe today, even just now?
Yeah, that's really good question because if you asked me last year, I was pretty. That was the first year where I felt very burnt out. I think
Mhm.
having
Mhm.
teens is a really different season.
Yeah.
They have these crazy social calendars. So I learned very quickly when moms say like they're a taxi driver. So this year we made a huge change with our rhythm because I just couldn't, it was too much, and that's not why we homeschool, so that we can
Yes.
be out away from each other. We homeschool so that we can enjoy time together and our family first. And so this year is a lot different. They chose one activity, um, or some of them have like two because it's half season,
Mhm.
and then church is our like second extracurricular. So we
Mhm.
count that as like
Yeah.
something for them. We're only gone one one evening a week, which is Wednesday night, and that's church, and they have youth group. And my younger daughter has Patch Club, which is like Awana,
Mhm.
and that is just it's so much better. They have piano on Tuesdays, and
Mhm.
that's it. Like I
Right.
just feel and sorry, and then we have a monthly co-op. So we
Right.
have a it's not every week, which
Mhm.
is something
Mhm.
that I was thankful for. So they do once a month. We have like a nature Charlotte Mason co-op, and
Mhm.
then one time a month too, our church meets all together with the homeschool kids that are there.
Mhm.
So twice a month we're kind of running out for those, but it's just I feel a lot more peace
That's amazing.
managing that and really talking with the kids and explaining like, is this what we want? Do we want to be rushing out all the time? Or
Mhm.
so yeah, so they like my oldest was so mature about it. Like just she had stopped doing like violin. She was in violin,
Mhm.
and she had stopped doing violin because she's like, I really love piano, and I really want to focus on that.
Yeah.
So even seeing their passions develop um, is amazing. She's honing in on now piano, and she's
Mhm.
not kind of spreading out all over the place like they
Right.
do when they're younger because they're just
Yeah.
testing things out, right?
True.
Um, so that's really beautiful to see, like their passions growing and what they want to put their energy and time
For
into versus
sure.
doing everything.
Yes.
Um, so we having an older teen, so our routine is she sleeps in until like I try to say be up by 9, but so she sleeps in 9:30, and I'm down here with the little kids.
Mhm.
We do I'll do their math with them. We'll read some
Mhm.
stories together. And then my oldest will come down and join us. And that's when we kind of do our family studies together.
Mhm.
So history, science, and then and then just and then we have our afternoons, like you said, we will listen to our audiobook at lunchtime, and then we usually have our afternoons open. So that's
Mhm.
something I love about homeschooling.
Mhm. No, I remember. I love what you're saying. I think it's so important for people to hear because that works for your family, and what works for you may not work for somebody else.
Yes.
And so our family looked different than your family, and we were busy with the five kids, and they were doing hockey, and then the girls, then they transitioned out of that, and the girls started dance, and like it's just there's seasons for everything. Seasons for a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit busy, seasons for a little bit to pull back. But I think what you're
Yeah.
teaching them is just it's a life skill to know what you can handle, to know what your
Oh,
passions are, what has God given you as a desire in your heart? What are your gifts and talents? And this is all part of that learning curve. And the fact that you can do that with them at home is helping them put them on a path probably fairly early, I would
yeah.
think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and that's so true to say that, like, every family is so different and what you can handle too, and
Mhm.
there are gonna be seasons, like, last year we were into everything,
Yeah.
and this year we're just pulling it back, so I think there's
Okay.
just and who knows, like, what the next season will bring,
Yeah.
and so I think, yeah, that's something that has really
Mhm.
been on my heart a lot lately is just to go in with like a soft heart,
Mhm.
and no matter how much we plan, God has his way with things,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
there'll be those moments, so just like always having a soft heart
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
change, and no matter how much
Absolutely.
we plan.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's so wise and so encouraging for somebody listening today that might not have thought they could do this. Maybe they're starting to realize, you know what, I could just start. It's one day at a time, one
Yeah,
month at a time, one subject at a time. You don't have to plan their full 18 years in front of you. And that's what we said too, when you like going back to what you said earlier. It was just for us too, 1 year at a time. And then
yeah,
we ended up doing it for 17 years.
yeah,
But I think it helped my mindset thinking, okay, I can do this. I can figure out how to pick a math and then the reading and the language arts and what's this one? Explode the Code, Apology of Science, like all these different things. Sunlight curriculum, and there's so much. But and again, too, as you know, not everything works for every child, too. And I've
right,
learned
yeah,
that over the years too. And you have to kind of put something aside for a while and then bring something back out, that
yeah,
kind of thing. And I'm sure you're learning that every day.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Refining job.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a constant like looking at the learning needs of your kids. And that's another gift of homeschooling is the opportunity to be able to do that and be with them one-on-one and recognize where they might be struggling,
Yeah,
and where they might be excelling, and then where to actually incorporate different curriculum for them than one of your other kids.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm. So I have a question about what you may have heard from other people, because a lot of people challenge you on your choice to homeschool and they may not agree with you. So how have you dealt with people? And maybe you haven't, not everybody does, but how have you dealt with what people have said about you choosing to homeschool? Because that's a big fear for people, what other people think of
I
what the
know.
choices that they're making, right?
Yeah. When we started homeschooling, of course, because my mother-in-law did it, she was on board.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
of course.
he, it's funny that my husband's side of the family, they're all teachers and principals, and so it was good to have like their advice and support. They were
Mhm.
really supportive.
It's amazing.
My other side of the family, they my mom was always supportive. My grandmother, it's funny. It's just I don't know, maybe just well, anyway, she always asks like, "Oh, when are they going back? When are they
Mhm.
going back to school or how long are you going to do this?" And so I guess being prepared with pocket answers that you can
Mhm.
pull out
True.
maybe, but
Mhm.
I always they see now, it's funny because they see the fruit now of it. So I think just over the years, at first it was odd or different,
Mhm. Yeah.
but they can see like 9 years later, they're seeing like, oh, I'm so glad you decided to do that, and she
Mm.
said that to me before. So it's just I think for me, being just confident in my decision to
Yeah.
homeschool, and knowing that like every family needs to come to their own decision of how they want to educate their children, and it might not be best for every single family. So just understanding that, and being confident has
Mhm.
really helped me just like being really set in homeschooling, confident in it, and knowing my why that we
Yeah.
want to homeschool.
That's so
But
good. Yeah, knowing your why, that's really important. It's almost like even just sharing the gospel, knowing why
yeah,
you believe what you believe. Why are you doing
right,
what you're doing? And if the Lord laid it on your heart, he will give you the words to be able to share it with people with grace and people. And you don't walk around just advocating all over the place. You're living it. So people
right.
will see it as a lifestyle. And if they ask questions, they ask questions. And I think that's a really good way to go about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I haven't I don't have too many like straight answers, but
Yeah.
just that we love it. We like
Yeah.
doing it. We love homeschooling, and we're just taking it year by year, I guess.
Yeah. So good. So good. So before we finish up, let's talk a little bit about the social media concept because that's how I found you was on Instagram. And I think back to my early days, we didn't have anything like that. So I would love to know how you're balancing using social media as your platform as well to talk about your homeschooling world and your life and your journey, and how you balance that in your home, even social media with your kids. I mean, we're all balancing that. We're all dealing with that.
Mhm.
So how do you do that with your homeschooling day and social media?
So for me, it's really important. Like I had set, I guess I subconsciously set boundaries. I don't know. I didn't like
Mm.
lay it all out and say I'm going to do this.
Right.
But just as your kids get older too, my social media has changed. If you look back at the very beginning when I had opened my account in 2019 versus how it is now having older kids, I try to uh, like protect and their privacy,
Mm.
especially my oldest. Like I will make sure I ask if I'm
Mhm.
ever filming her or taking pictures, but
Mm.
I do just want to share our days.
Okay.
So so what I do most of the time is I try not to do any like talking face to face with my phone or anything while we're doing lessons or anything
Mm.
like that. I will
Mhm.
sometimes like scan what we're doing or snap a photo of what we're
Mm.
doing, but that's as far as my phone will go when we're doing
Yeah.
um our lessons during the day, and then I try to edit and post videos and get them ready in the evening. So usually you'll
Yeah.
see like my posts come out at 9 o'clock at night, and that's
Yeah.
just because that's what works for us, and I can
Good.
be busy. I mean, that's not always the case if there's certain deadlines that I have to do,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
during the day.
Yeah.
That usually they'll be off with some independent work or something,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
yeah. So I do try to just um, do any editing or posts in the nighttime. So that has been a
Yeah.
really just a good way to
That's
balance
amazing.
it all, I think.
Yeah.
But
Oh, for sure. I mean, and they're watching you with your rhythm and they're learning from you how to balance your days and the importance of your phone and how it is important to use, but it's important to put away and to focus and be in the room and be present and focus on what you're doing at hand, your studies. That's priority number one. And the
right,
fact that you've got your own rhythm, I think that just probably takes away the anxiety and the pressure of everything. I mean, I'm sure it's not 100% perfect all the time,
right, yeah,
but it gives you the mindset of, okay, I know what's coming. I know what I'm planning. And that's just a really good way to share things. Very, very wise. So I would appreciate
right,
that. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
So lastly, what would you say to somebody today who might be thinking about, who's on the fence, maybe embracing homeschooling? What would you say to them today?
Yeah. Firstly, like pray, talk with your spouse, pray about it. And then the thing that I've just been learning so much the last few years is how, no matter how, like I had said before, no matter how much we plan, and I'm a planner, so no matter how much we can plan our days,
Mhm.
it doesn't always go exactly as we plan.
No.
So to go in like with a soft heart and
Mm,
open hands, and I know
that.
we hear that analogy a lot of like open hands, but
Mm,
hold on to your schedule or your routine really loose
mm,
because God has his own plans
mhm,
with each day, and have that soft heart so that when those bumps or little interruptions happen, like there's a lot of one-on-ones, there's a lot of heart
yeah,
lessons that happen, and those outweigh so much than any curriculum. So
yeah,
just have a soft, open heart and open hands and um, plan, but then if stuff happens, just allow teaching moments
yeah.
to happen.
Yeah. Wow, Paige, I love that. That is so good. That is such a great way to end off our conversation today because really, God's got the plan for us. He knows our plan and the steps that He wants us to take, and having our hands open and our eyes up and looking at Him is the best thing we can do. And that will give us the peace that we crave.
Right.
No matter what journey you take, whatever, even if you are Christian school, public school, homeschool, whatever it is, God's holding you and He's got
Mhm.
your family, right? So.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been a delight. Thank you so much, Paige, for the time you took to chat with me today on the podcast about homeschooling. It is just such a gift. And I'm so thankful for it in my life. And I can see just from the sparkle in your eye, the delight that it is for you and your family. So I just want to encourage you. You're doing a beautiful job and
Oh, thank you.
keep on going, keep on going. And I'm really excited to see what's to come for you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun to chat with
Uh,
you.
This has been great. I look forward to it maybe again sometime. So thank you so much,
Yes.
Paige. We'll talk to you
Yeah.
soon.
Thanks, Sandy.